I'm Leah Lawrence.
And I'm her husband, Mitch Lawrence.
And you are listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast, where I regale my husband with Southern stories of the macabre, the creepy, and the strange.
And I drink.
So what are you drinking tonight, Mitchell?
In a not-so-showy way.
Sorry.
Leah, I don't know what that was.
It's just going for the gusto.
Yeah, you're doing great. Well, our beer tonight is a Watermelon Dragon Fruit Burst Session Sour. This is brewed and canned at Wicked Weed Brewing in Asheville, North Carolina. 4.5% alcohol by volume. Let's read the can. And they go real into it with this one. This is deep, so.
All right.
Ale with watermelon flavor, dragon fruit powder, and natural flavors. End quote.
All right, nice.
So there's a lot of information there, a lot to parse through. You could just look at the name of it, and I think you'd get the same thing. So
Look, I appreciate a beer that's straightforward and doesn't, like, take me on this flight of mythological fancy like Orpheus does, you know?
I do love
like,
a good flight of mythological fancy.
Okay, here comes the booze cat. Sorry, y'all.
Good God, Steve, couldn't you have prepared yourself first? Steve.
I'm sorry, y'all. He is headbutting our camera.
Yep. And there's his butthole.
Yeah, just have
Okay.
fun with that, YouTube.
Okay, about the beer.
Sorry.
It's 0% sour. It's not sour at all. 100% D word, though. This is wonderful. It's light, crisp, refreshing, almost grapefruity. It's over into that area, but it's amazing. I love it. I give it a 9 out of 10. Leah even tried it, and she was like, oh, that's okay.
It's fine. It's just when I see something that's got that fun of a can and it says that it's a sour, I'm legitimately expecting it to be a sour because sours are like my favorite style of beer. And it's just not sour at all, like at all.
Yeah.
It's not a sour.
Yeah, I also just realized that the cans are going to disappear.
Oh yeah,
these are green with orange and pink writing. So
yeah, they're super cute.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really festive can and it comes in a really festive box, and like I love the packaging. The beer tastes fine, but it's not a sour, and that makes me sad.
It's not sour at all, but it's really, really good. It's just like a fruity drink. I did go to their website to see if they had anything besides that short thing on the can, and they don't. But this is a Burst series. They have a bunch of different fruity beers that are from this Burst Session Sour type of thing. So they have a lot of them.
Actually sour, though.
I mean, I couldn't tell you. This is the one we got. Yeah. So, I like it, though. I think it's very, very refreshing. I could use with some sour and probably some more alcohol content because it won't really get you drunk either, but it's good. So. All right, our shot in the dark for the night, 99 Black Cherries, produced and bottled by Polynesian Products Company in Louisville, Kentucky, 49.5% alcohol by volume, and it's been on the show before, so if you would like to hear the full review, go to episode 127. Swamp Hags Aggro Crag was the name of that one. It got an 8 out of 10. It's fine. It's not the best 99 product. Bananas is always up there. I haven't had 99 apples, but that one always looks really good to me. It's good. We're going to take some shots of it, and it's quite a few months old. So that episode was back in September of last year.
Nice.
So a full year. Anyway, that's it for the alcohols, Leah. What would you like to do now?
We'll go directly into a sassy Southern saying.
Okay. Do it.
It's not that sassy, but it is, a saying. So.
Oh, before you do that, I do want to say the August Patreon episode is up. We recorded it 2 days ago, and then everything happened.
In August.
Yeah, in August.
By the way.
2 days ago from where we are, which is in September. But anyway, we recorded it in August, and everything happened like it always does every fucking week around here. And it's up now. It's up in September.
But to be fair, the reason it wasn't posted the last day of August is because we came home from dinner,
No.
Our power
I was
out?
home. You were late. I was making food, and the power went out.
I had a therapy appointment that day, and so I came back home expecting, Mitch had made like this amazing dinner for us. It was wonderful.
It was so good.
And he called. He was like, Yeah, the power's out. So we had a candlelit dinner and we were expecting it to come on pretty quick and it did not.
No.
So
we were still in the throes of hurricane time.
yeah.
Like, it never got bad here, but it rained all day. That day, I think it was Tuesday, and something happened to
I would say a limb or a squirrel. Something took out the transformer on our utility corridor. So people across the street had power, but we did not.
I had just turned the eye off on the stove on the Florentine sauce I was making. And like I turned it off and I came back to my computer to let that sauce simmer a little bit. It was off, but it was still bubbling. And I sat down. When I sat at my computer, the power went out. And then Leah pulled in like a minute later.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Sorry about that. Natural disasters being what they were. We tried. It was a good college try. I mean, like, community college try, but it's fun.
Still made some wonderful chicken Florentine.
Agreed.
Ooh, it was good.
All right. Anyway, so enough about that. Our sassy Southern saying for the evening is,
there we go.
Chewing the fat.
Chewing the fat. This is when... people in the South, they are generally, well, let's just say, they eat a lot of salt. I eat a lot of salt. That's the problem. Have a lot of sodium problems, as we've discussed the last couple of weeks. People in the South are real big, so you just walk up to somebody that you haven't seen in a while. Hey, how you doing? And you just bite them on the belly roll. You just gnaw it. Like, you don't bite hard. You just kind of massage it with your teeth, Or if you're a true Southerner, you don't have any teeth, so you're just massaging those rolls with your gums. You just...
If anybody gums my belly rolls, we're out. This is an absolute no from me. Thank you very much.
I give people explicit permission to gum my belly rolls.
Oh, that just puts just a nope in my body that I can't handle.
God, how many times have I heard that? That is a nope in my body. Get it out of there.
The entirety of my body, that phrase put me into a fight or flight situation, and the immediate response was fight. I will stab.
Y'all have heard of a Southern goodbye, which lasts about 2 hours. This is a Southern hello. This is, you walk up to somebody, go, hey, what you doing? You just gnaw. Again, it's not a chew, it's a massaging on the love handle.
Oh, gross.
Just a little bit. And yeah, it's going to be a little salty. Not only do they ingest a lot of salt, they also excrete a lot of salt. And that's how it goes.
Would you like to try again?
No, I'm fairly confident this is what it is. This is called a Southern hello.
No, that was disturbing in every level of just conceptually, just no. Chewing the fat just means that you're talking a lot.
The Hartselle Kroger is full of people just biting each other's bellies.
Will you stop?
It is.
Oh, Jesus. That's how COVID gets spread real fast.
Yeah, through belly bites. Protect your eyes.
The mask. Well, most of them aren't wearing masks in the first place. But
protect your eyeballs. Oh, my God. Imagine that if we could convince people that COVID spreads explicitly through your upper body skin being in contact with the air. How many people are going to stop wearing shirts? If the CDC's like, it's important that you wear a shirt, and all of them go, fuck you. I'm going into Kroger and I'm going to gnaw on some bellies.
Have Meemaw over in the corner with just her big granny bra on.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But even that's too much protection. That's like when people put their thongs on their face. Oh, I already got burps.
Anyway, so no, chewing the fat just means, having a nice long conversation. Because, if you ever chewed on the fat of a steak or something like that, it's super chewy and it takes a long time. And
it's also the best part.
Yeah, I disagree, but fine. And, it takes a while to get through, and so does a Southern conversation. Because we like to talk and we like to hear ourselves talk, and,
That's mostly it. I think I've said on the show before, but I heard someone a long time ago make a philosophical statement of a conversation is just people standing around waiting for their turn to talk about themselves. And that's really sit and think about that for a minute. And you're like, yeah, because I thought about it. And like I'm doing right now, someone will be saying something and I'll go, yeah, here's what I do in that situation. That's literally everything that I say. Everything that comes out of my mouth is this right here. There you go. And see, I've always viewed it as a way to relate to someone, but turns out, no, I'm just narcissistic.
No,
I find a way to make it about me.
that is technically a sort of a symptom of like ADHD and neurodivergence when you generally bring topics back to something in your life and you bring it up to sort of relate to someone. When you do it in a manner that's a little abrupt, a lot of the times that is a symptom of some particular type of neurodivergency, depending on what the other symptoms might be. But
yeah, I'm pretty divergent.
I like to call myself quirky because I have never put myself in a position to be diagnosed, because every time I talk to my therapist, I get letters added to my diagnosis, and I feel like, I know I'm a weirdo and eventually I'll probably have to be diagnosed with something, but the anxiety and the OCD and the SAD and the all that shit, no thanks. Anyway.
There is one thing that I would love for your therapist to say, and that's CBD. Let's get your ass chilled out.
Oh, I think that would be more of a THC situation, but all right.
Hey, whatever 3 letters gets it done. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, NAP at this point. I'm tired, y'all. Oh, fuck. It has been an absolute week, and it is only Thursday. So,
it's very
bless
true.
my heart. And anyway, how about we get going on this week's episode?
Okay. Hit me with it.
All right. Well, we're going to have a short story at first and then a long story at second. So this is the first story, and it is the short story. And we're going to go to Georgia, and we're talking about the Cogdell Spook Lights.
Spook Lights.
Spook Lights.
Spook Lights. Okay.
So Cogdell is in Clinch County, Georgia. It's on sort of the northwestern edge of the Okefenokee Swamp. And I just like to say Okefenokee for no good reason. So try saying it.
That's
it makes
one of
you
those
happy.
things that I always thought was just a made up thing for a country song. It's just, Okefenokee or whatever. Yeah. I like Pontchartrain. Thought that was a made up word for a long time. And I was like, wait, we're going over a made up bridge going to New Orleans? No, this is Lake Pontchartrain. Somebody made that word up. I don't believe it. Anyway. It's just one of those.
So the Okefenokee Swamp, they're in Georgia. Anyway, it is the largest swamp in North America, and there's a lot of fucking alligators in it.
Don't go looking.
Yeah, I was like, you can go looking for these spook lights, but just be aware of the alligators in the area. Just FYI. Anyway, so
speaking of, I saw a thing that somebody posted. From the hurricane in Louisiana, they walked out their back door and it was flooded, and there was an alligator in their backyard, like swimming in their backyard. No thanks.
See, and our property backs up to sort of a little rivulet from the Flint River, and the Flint watershed has plenty of alligators in it. And if it ever got like bad flooded here torrential, like it did there, I could see an alligator showing up. We're a little bit far up the hill for it to be a problem for us, but further down the hill,
we could see it on our street.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could see the neighbors' alligators, but that's about it. Oh, howdy, gator.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry. But yeah, so spook lights. A lot of people say they're will-o'-the-wisp. They call them earth lights or swamp gas or whatever you want to call them. But we've talked about a couple spook lights before, specifically in Piezoelectric Hootenanny, I believe.
That's deep cut.
That's very early on. That was the Gurdon light from Arkansas. So we've talked about that one. And it actually has a similar origin story to this. Like, pretty damn similar. So
exciting.
Yeah, that's fun. So about the town of Cogdell. Cogdell is basically just a couple of buildings at this point. It is very small, and I don't really think that there's much of a town left to talk about. It started off, it was settled in 1914 by a man named Alexander Kelly Sessoms, and shot in the dark.
Son of a bitch, Leah. Okay, let's load gun. Let's shoot gun. Oh, wait. There we go.
Shot in the dark. Why did Mr. Sessoms call the town Cogdell?
Okay.
Did he name it A, after a racehorse, B, after his mother, or C, after a patent medicine?
That sounds like a racehorse to me. I'm going racehorse.
You're incorrect.
All right, well, go ahead.
Cogdell was his mother's maiden name.
Of course it was, but plot twist, his mother was a racehorse. and his father was a hamster.
Oh, and the town business was an elderberry distillery. No, it was a sawmill and a turpentine still, actually. So he owned most of the area. He owned all the area's forests, and he built a sawmill and a turpentine still. And he basically built a company town there in Cogdale, which is strictly what it was. There wasn't like any kind of local... anybody owned anything. It was him. He owned everything, and he brought in people to work, and they worked for him.
Yeah.
Period.
I think the 99 black cherries has gone bad.
Okay.
Oh no.
I think it always tasted bad, but
no, that's rubbing alcohol.
Well.
Oh no.
It's 99. What did you expect?
Oh, but like there's no flavor. I've got the chills. There's no flavor.
All right. Anyway.
Oh no. Oh no.
So, Cogdale, like I said, was a company town, and the company town obviously has the company store. So they had the company store and post office in one building, and that building is still standing, but obviously it's closed. There's nothing in it really, as far as I could tell. But most of the records aren't, up to date. So something may have happened to it in the last couple of years. But as far as I can tell, it's still standing there in Cogdale. And the employees that worked there at the company, they didn't get paid in cash. It's kind of like those same systems that they had up in West Virginia for coal miners. Mm-hmm. It was the same thing. They would just log in. Store credit. And they had money that they were given that was called Babbitts. Mm-hmm. That was their company currency, and they could only spend it there. They all lived in company housing, and all of the company housing was segregated. So all of the white people lived on the north side of the town. All of the black people lived on the south side of the town, and it was illegal for them to intermix, basically.
Oh my God, excuse me.
And the railroad track that sort of came in and moved products back and forth, it's really interesting because there was a man there. His name was Kent's Charles Davis, and he was actually a self-taught railway construction engineer kind of dude. Like, he learned on the job, I guess, and became like a really exceptional construction leader in building railroads in the Southeast. And he was a black man, and a lot of the people in the area really fucking hated him because he was a black guy that was doing quote unquote a white man's job. So the Ku Klux Klan had it out for him, like, pretty severely.
Yeah.
But Mr. Sessoms, the guy that owned the whole company and stuff like that, and some of the rich people around there that were making money off of the train tracks that this man was designing and building for them, basically protected them with their money. And they're like, yeah, he's too good for business. You can't lynch this one, so it's not like they were being good people. It was just that, like, he was very talented at what he was doing. And actually that guy's kids' names, those kids, actually his children ended up being famous, is what I'm trying to say, but I'm having a struggle.
Yeah. You're doing great, though.
His daughter, O.C. Davis, was an actor, writer, civil rights activist, and actually his brother, what I said daughter, I meant son. Anyway, and then the brother was William Conan Davis, and he's actually a food chemist that is really famous because he came up with a formula for instant mashed potatoes. He came up with a shelf-stable potato chip, and he came up with sort of one of the original formulas for soft-serve ice cream. So this guy was like incredibly influential in the American diet.
He's the Booker T. Washington of the potato.
Yeah, I mean, kinda, yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's like he was very, very influential as a food chemist, which I think is just really cool. But anyway, that doesn't have a ton to do with it. I just like, famous people in history. But anyway, today the tracks that sort of led in and out of this town are no longer there. They replaced it when they built the Georgia 122 road. I'm not sure if it's a highway or I think it's a county road. but it runs alongside sort of this dirt road section there's a paved road, but there's sort of an access road that's not paved. It's like a dirt road, and that's where the spook lot's supposed to show up, and that's where the tracks once were. And so the story of how this spook lot came to be was that one of the railroad tracks, like the supply lines that were bringing things in, so they were building tracks, and one of the railroad conductors ends up getting hit and killed by a train. And the whole time while it was coming towards him, they were trying to signal, the train, hey, this is the end of the track. You need to fucking stop moving and all that.
Yep.
So he was waving his lantern frantically back and forth, trying to get the train to stop to prevent it from derailing. And he ends up, getting hit, getting decapitated. And apparently in this one, the guy, is forever waving his lantern and looking for his decapitated head, which is eerily similar to what happened in the story of the spook lot in Gurdon, Arkansas. So I don't know what it is about railroad tracks and people getting decapitated and looking for their head,
God.
but man, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, I mean, does it really matter where it is? Like, what are you going to do with it when you find it?
I've always wondered that about like decapitation ghost stories. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, even if you do find it, it's going to be a little rotty at this point,
Yeah, it's. I mean, like the rest of the body, though. Like, what are you going to do with it? Like that thing we've been watching on Netflix. What's the name of that thing?
What thing?
The horror series. We haven't finished it because we didn't watch the third one yet. Those movies.
Oh, the Fear Street.
Yeah, Fear Street. Because that whole thing revolves around the hand of the person.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Why? Why do you care about your hand?
Baby, you dead. Calm down.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be whole without my hand. Bitch,
Take
what you
my
going to do with
I
that
don't
hand
care.
anyway? Yeah, like, what do you need it for? That's all. That's all I don't have. I wasn't going anywhere with that, Leah. Don't look at me like that. Jesus.
I'm sorry, but for some reason, it reminds me of a TikTok that I watched yesterday, I think, that apparently this lady's, like, she's a witch, I guess. Like, she does herbal remedies and that kind of stuff. She likes to, normal modern day witchy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And she has a daughter, and the daughter likes to play with like her dried herbs and stuff like that. And she lets the daughter make her own potions, whatever, mixing things, that kind of thing, just having fun as a family. And apparently the daughter had gotten into her stuff and decided to make her own potion one day without permission. And anyway,
Oh, no.
it ends up that she made an absolute soup out of her mother-in-law.
What?
The mom's mother-in-law, like she was dead. And it was the cremated ashes. The little girl didn't know the difference between some of the like ground powders.
This is
that
a
she
real
used.
person
Yeah, no,
that
this
you-
is legitimately.
okay.
And like she showed the urn, and she's
my
like,
God.
if anybody has any ideas of how we can dry out my mother-in-law, like let us know. But yeah, so the little girl like was just playing with the cremated ashes, trying to make a potion, and it was the lady.
Was she
Eventually
drinking
found
it?
it was
Was she
no.
trying
That's
the
what she
potion?
said. She was like, we asked her, and she's like, I'm so glad that saved us such a therapy bill for later on, because I don't know how you deal with drinking your
fuck.
grandma, but anyway, it was very humorous the way she told the story. But yeah,
I don't think so.
it was funny.
That's
I
fucked
promise.
up.
Well, I mean, it's inorganic matter at that point. It's not.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those people. Like, I think that we give far too much credence to, like, the dead, and, like, I hate... Anyway, but that is fucked up, though. If you eat whatever's left of someone by
they
accident
didn't.
or
They
on
didn't.
purpose,
No.
it's fucked up.
The little
That's all I
girl
was
was just
saying.
mixing it up with glitter and herbs. That's it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
To clarify my point, I don't understand the quote unquote respect that we show the dead. Like they're dead. Who gives a fuck? When I die, just leave me wherever I am. Like I'm fuck it. Who cares? I don't care about what you do with my body. Just get it away from you so it don't stank.
Yeah,
or
I was
blow
gonna say,
up or something.
I've never been super attached to anything like that either. But for some people it's super important, and that's fine. I have no
It's not fun.
problem with
I have a problem with it.
Okay, fine. Whatever. But like I said, I mean, my mom wanted to be buried, and I know traditionally that's what she wanted, and so that's what we did for her. And, you know, I'll put flowers on her grave after my dad passes away and maintain that because I know that's what she would want. But, like, as for me, fuck that shit. Yeah. Burn my ashes, you know, hose me down the tub. I don't care.
I'll never forget the face that your grandmother made when we were in the funeral home talking about what to do with your mother.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the coffin and she would have wanted the cheapest coffin. Nobody wants anything super expensive. And somehow it came up and your dad was like, no, I want to be cremated. And his mother, the face she gave him was like, she didn't say anything, but the face was just, what the hell? Where did I go wrong? Was that face? It's like,
this is from the woman that has 2 burial plots, all right?
Yeah, for real.
Okay.
Well, she had 2 husbands, so
that's true.
She's gonna get buried wherever she gets buried.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, she has a lot of weird ideas about it. But like I said, when the time comes, and Lord willing, it is not soon. But when the time comes, we'll do exactly what she wants because that's.
She said most expensive waterproof coffin.
Yeah.
Because she wants to come back when Jesus comes back.
I mean, pretty much.
My question to that is, I've said it on the show. I don't want to go through it. The same body you're in right now? Because it's kind of fucked up.
I was going to say, if we're not getting an upgrade, I'm good.
Yeah. Like, are you going to put me to my healthiest? Or am I dying with the body? Or am I coming back with the body I died with? Because fuck no. There's going to be something wrong with what I have going on.
Yeah.
When I die, without a doubt. So, anyway.
I agree.
Go ahead.
Anyway.
You may continue.
Yeah, so that's the Cogdell spook light. So they still see reports of the lights out there, and there's certain areas and stuff that you can drive off and park. They say that you're supposed to. I mean, there's a bunch of different stories. Some say that it needs to be you need to go out there at midnight and you've got to turn off your lights and you just have to wait, and sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't show up till 3:00. But a lot of people have seen this particular light. The people that have said it say it's about the size of a beach ball. Mm-hmm. It's about 10 or 15 feet off the ground most of the time. It floats out of the trees, it goes back into the trees, it floats back out of the trees. One lady that was interviewed for this paper article that I was reading, she said that it was, back in the 60s, and she and a bunch of her friends, they had 2 cars full of people, and they had gone out there and they had cut the lights and they were waiting to see it. And sure enough, this thing floats out of the woods and everybody's freaking out at this point. And they... So the car that she wasn't in, the one that they were next to, apparently they freaked out and tried to crank the engine to get the fuck out of there. But the engine wouldn't start, and the light it was sort of a green glowing light. Some people say it's white, some people say it's orange, but most of the time you'll see it described as green. And it sort of floated under the car, or it sort of floated over into one of the headlight beams, then into the other headlight beam, and then it sort of bounces under the car, kind of like it's just sort of looking around, and then it comes back out by the license plate, and then it sort of floats back into the trees. And at that point, they were all too freaked out to continue sitting there and letting the light poke around them. So they went the fuck away. And then other people said, that basically people were generally only using that as an excuse to go look at the light. It's just a reason for teenagers to go, hang out in a very dark, secluded spot
where
they can
cigarettes.
Well, I mean,
and drink.
Making out and stuff was that.
Yeah.
They were necking, Mitchell.
Necking. Yeah. You're right. Nobody fucked back then.
No. It was just necking.
Yeah.
And so that's mostly what people think, that the originating sort of the reason behind why that story was popular and continued to be spread. It's just because it was a very convenient reason to go not at home, something to hang out and go do, and it's a very secluded area and that kind of thing. So yeah, I just think it's a fun little local spook lot. And there are actually a bunch of spook lots in that area. There's like 5 or 6 towns in that same general area, all sort of bordering the swamp area, that all have different spook lot stories associated with them. Some are very similar to this one. Some are, lost lovers or lost, treasure, that kind of thing. Most of the time, the spook lot stories will have something associated with them like that.
Yeah.
But weirdly, it is all sort of focused around the Okefenokee Swamp, which leads a lot of people to believe that, one of the main, theories that people actually put credence into about these spook lots, because these things happen all over the world, most famously in like the peat bogs in the UK. They call them will-o'-the-wisps there, but
Yeah.
they're a documented phenomenon that they happen out there. And a lot of people think it's swamp gas. It's just some kind of phosphorescent gas that's rising up out of these marshlands that's making all this luminescent glowing balls. I don't know.
Yes. Hashtag glowing balls. I would agree with that assessment. It's some kind of gas
But
thing.
why does it jump around and bob around?
Because there's gas everywhere out there. And
I
gas
guess.
sometimes has that visual, mirage
But most of the time
thing.
they're seeing it in the pitch black, though, because you're
Yep.
in the middle of nowhere. And especially back in the 60s and 70s, there was less light pollution coming out from many of the surrounding towns.
Mhm.
And so there's not a lot of
Look.
anything to...
Look, I'm no scientist.
Well, clearly.
I'm just saying.
You think it's gas.
I think it's gas. In my experience, it's usually gas.
Alrighty then. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that information was taken from a lovely article on Atlas Obscura about a dude went out looking for it, and it was really fun. And it was funny because at the end of the article, he saw a lot. He was waiting and waiting and waiting, and he finally sees this lot, and he's like, "Holy shit, it's the spook lot!" And then he realized it's just another car driving on the same road past. He was like, "Well, fuck,"
Yeah. So there you go. It's teenagers going further out to fuck.
I guess.
Yeah. If you want to fuck, you got to get deep in there, deep in that swamp.
Ugh. That's when a gator's gonna chomp your pecker off.
Hey, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Oh.
Okay.
Chomp, chomp.
So first story's done?
Yeah, the first story's over.
Well, I enjoy the lights. I always enjoy the lights.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
We're gonna go move over to something that's a lot more heavy.
Okay.
So just as a warning, there is trigger warning. There is some abuse,
Oh, no.
of minors. And it is a cult, so if you have any like religious trauma, maybe sit this one out. But
Well, we got to give the camera a break. You know that.
oh yeah.
I was going to say, that's a good teaser, though.
Coming
you go.
shortly.
Coming up after this break.
And there's really not a break, but
After we hear from our sponsors, of which we have none.
But anyway, we'll be right back.
Coming to you from Fat Chompers.
After these messages.
I don't have a good name for a fat chomping company, but anyway.
Anyway.
We're going to take some time and charge the camera. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back, everybody. We are now ready to get into Leah's terrible, awful, no good, very bad second story.
Are you saying the story is no good or it's about a bad topic? Because
I would think bad topic. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Sounds like
definitely.
bad topic.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to Mississippi for this one because, why not?
Well, yeah. Yeah, okay, I take it back. Bad story.
Yeah.
Mississippi.
We're going to St. Paul, Mississippi, and we're going to be talking about the Move cult, which is still an active religious organization.
Really?
Yes, and still a cult, by the way. Don't join them. But
do what you want to do.
do how you do.
The only thing is they do have a vaccine requirement.
They don't.
So good luck. You
but
don't know
anyway,
that. You don't know that.
I can guarantee you they don't. But anyway, yeah. So maybe don't join a cult, but we're going to be talking about specifically the move. They had a sort of cult compound in Sapah, Mississippi in the 70s, and it was called, the Sapah Church, but it was also sort of locally known as Deliverance Farm. So we're going to be talking about that.
How exciting.
It is pretty disturbing. So,
I like disturbing. Disturbing makes me happy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So the man that started the move, his name is Sam Fife. He was born Samuel Fife Jr. In 1926. He was born in Miami to a Samuel Drew Fife Sr. and a Maud Iva Cox.
Oh.
Yes. And he served in the Navy for a while, but then he went on to attend and graduate from the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary.
Yeah.
And y'all, backstory, every preacher that ever preached to me as a child graduated from there as well. So,
oh, that makes sense why you're so fucked up.
just saying.
Yeah.
Maybe I have some religious trauma. I don't know. But fine.
Sounds like Leah's saying baptism within Christianity is a cult. That's what it sounds like.
No, he did actually go on to separate from the Southern Baptist Convention. And
Well, then I'm saying it. Southern Baptists are absolutely cult members. Go ahead.
I'm not saying anything. Anyway.
Yeah, I know you're not. There's nothing to say.
By the time Mr. Fife had graduated from the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, he had already divorced one wife and married a second.
You can't do that if you're a Baptist.
You can. You're not supposed to, but you can.
Well, you can't be a preacher?
You can't be a deacon.
Oh, okay. So you can do anything you want as long as you're the top rung.
It depends on what
like.
group of, my church was very specific about deacons, and they didn't want anybody that had been divorced to be a deacon, which is why my grandfather never served as one. But a lot of other churches were not nearly as conservative in the rules as my church was. So, I mean, other places it might not be that, but yeah, I mean, there is a prohibition against deacons having been divorced, but I don't know about preachers. But anyway, so this guy ends up back in Miami after he graduates with his seminary degree, and he founds a church called the Miami Revival Center. And at this point in time, he receives a message from God.
Yep.
And God says he needs to, quote, bring forth a divine order government to govern the world.
I thought it was going to be all the young pussy, because that's normally what happens in cults.
Weirdly, no.
Eventually,
This is
there.
oddly not a weird sex cult. It's like a weird New World Order under Jesus kind of situation. They believe, so they're sort of an apocalyptic cult.
Yeah.
So, so what happened was they believed that, basically, well, here, I'll quote from the Mr. Fife himself. He says, "Therefore we are in God's school of divine government, and God is training us as one many-membered man, teaching us, training us, preparing us to be the government through whom the Spirit of Christ will govern the world." So they're literally attempting to set up a one world government under this Fife guy.
Yep.
Like he receives a prophecy in 1970. Receives a prophecy. And he said that the world was going to come to an end in a few years. Smartly, he didn't give a number that I could find.
Specific date?
He didn't give a specific date, because when you give a specific date, you fuck yourself.
Like that's a normal thing. It's been happening for forever, but especially over the last year, there have been so many people who have given a specific date. The world is ending this day.
Yeah.
There have been, I know that you may not hear about them as often, which I didn't think I did either. But then, good God, there are so many people over the last year since COVID started, especially, who are like, the world's ending this day, now, right? What's about to happen? It's so much fun when they're wrong.
It is fun.
Unless this is all just a simulation. Do you know about simulation theory?
Yeah. That's a bunch of bullshit. But all right.
You don't know that. You might be saying that because the simulation wants you to say that.
Fine. And if I'm in a simulation, y'all, can we slim down a little bit faster? Like, if this is like one of those sim slide bar pixelated, like, get big tits, get small tits, big butt, like the character creators. Well, someone that's operating my sim, please just slide those sliders back down.
The NPCs have gained a consciousness.
I'm gonna need someone to really, fix my hair, my makeup. I just, if it's a simulation, y'all are doing a bad job controlling us, is all I'm saying.
Who are you talking to?
Whoever's controlling me in this fucking sim situation.
It's just you. It's you playing a sim because you love the Sims so much. You've actually been playing for about 15 straight hours, and I haven't awoken you yet.
I'm fine with that.
No.
Let me play. It'll be great. Anyway. But yeah, so they believed that the apocalypse was coming, and so what they had to do to prepare for this apocalypse, because Jesus was going to set them up in style. They were, after this fiery apocalypse and all the heretics were dead, they were going to be able to rule what was left over with, whatever they wanted to do. It was their world after that. And so he instructed his followers to construct communes all over the world. So, when the civilization, went to fuck, they would be safe, and they would, instate this divine government on earth that Jesus called them to do. Yep. So they built communes all over the United States. They built one in Massachusetts. There was one in Alaska, Texas. There are a few in Canada, a few in South America. And then they built the Deliverance Camp in Sapah, Mississippi, because Mississippi, am I right?
Yeah. You are.
So Sapah itself was actually founded in the 1880s, and it's a few miles from Eupora, which is a little bit bigger of an area. But anyway, and that's sort of, it was established when the Georgia Pacific Railroad sort of actually brought tracks down through the state.
Okay.
And just for a fun throwback to our funny southern town names, Sapah, actually, the lore, according to locals, is Sapah got its name when a boy asked his father what they were going to name the town, because they were, newly incorporating the town. He said, Sapah, what are they going to name this? And of course, they picked Sapah because...
I'm so glad we never did that one. That was fucking lame.
Yeah, it is lame. Most of the stories about town names are lame, but... Yeah. that's
that one
the local lore. But anyway, so they end up getting, so the Fife guy is busy running the international, well, I guess it's international at this point. You got South American cults, and you got some in Canada, and you got a bunch here. So yeah, international cult. So Fife is off busy doing that. So he appoints two people to run this commune camp that they've got going on. And so he hires John Henson and Bambi Henson.
Bambi?
Bambi.
Uh-huh.
And they, start running this camp. And the John guy, he said he was led by the Lord and found this property and thought it was just where this church should be. So they started the church there, and they called it the Church at Sapah. And it was was started in 1971, and they opened it as, quote, a safe haven from people that were suffering from a bunch of different issues, specifically drug and alcohol addiction, people with mental illness, people that had been in and out of jail, people that were just...
Also known as people that can be easily manipulated.
Easily manipulated people, yeah, that's the best way to put it. A lot of people sent their troubled teens just to get rid of them,
Yeah.
And they went around, so the Move had a bunch of different tent revivals and stuff, but then they also had their own local churches and communes around the places, and they would hear about, hey, the church has got this place where you can send, your troubled family members,
Well.
family members that, don't fit in with your family, that black sheep you got, send them on down to Sapah and they'll, fix them up. No problem.
You want to hear a funny story about that?
Go ahead.
In this similar vein, I'm a big Norm Macdonald fan. Leah does not care for Norm Macdonald.
No, I think he's awful.
He had a show. They eventually made a season of it kind of on Netflix called Norm Macdonald Has a Show. But he had Norm Macdonald on YouTube for a few years, and they would do episodes sparingly. Well, his sidekick on both of those shows was the manager of the Comedy Store in, I believe, Phoenix. May have been L.A. His name is Adam Egget. Younger guy, like maybe a couple years older than me. Maybe a little bit older than that. But Adam Egget, an absolutely true story that they sometimes joked about, was he was a troubled teen, and his parents sent him to one of these reform camps that was like for your troubled teen, and it was a cult. And like they didn't know. They didn't know that. But they sent him, and he was in this cult for like 3 years while he was a teenager.
That shit happens, and it still happens. Like that is legitimately like some of these like camps to like.
Yeah, this was like the 90s, like the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, to this day, stuff like that still happens. So if you're going to send your kid anywhere, please, Jesus Christ, make sure that they are like licensed professional psychotherapists and not related to any kind of religion whatsoever, because holy shit, that's terrifying.
But he was basically forced into this cult by his parents, and like called him a couple times from the camp. He's talked about it. I think I heard all of this from his stint when he was on Joe Rogan at one time. And I don't really listen to Joe Rogan, but when he has somebody interesting like Adam Egget on, I'll listen occasionally. But he was there for a couple of years and told his parents a couple times, hey, this is kind of messed up. And they're like, no, you have problems. Like he was a cutter, I think, he was violent. And they were like, no, you need to stay there and just get reformed. And he was like, no, this is bad. And then eventually somebody got arrested out of there, and they were like, okay, maybe you were right the whole time.
Weird. That sounds like a lot like what's about to happen in this story.
Maybe this is Adam Eget's story.
It's not. But specifically, I'm just back to TikTok because I've been on a TikTok binge this week. I try not to go on there because I like it too much, but that's one of my favorite like subgenres of TikToks to listen to are like cult survivor stories. Yeah. And they're like whole things of just people escaping different cults and religions and stuff like that. And like some of those stories are fucked up. That some of the shit that the people went through to just get out of their, super fundamentalist cults and stuff like that. It's bizarre that shit still happens, but it does.
It's everywhere.
So if anybody's interested in that kind of stuff, TikTok is a wealth of information. Anyway,
TikTok is never a wealth of information.
That particular like survivors telling their stories, it's a very interesting way to do it. But anyway, I digress so much. But anyway, so they end up, like I said, opening up this reform camp, quote unquote. But basically, what this entire place was set up to do was to give like evangelical exorcisms.
Great.
And the belief of the cult was that everything was demons. Like everything. If you drank, demons. If you flirted too hard, demons. If you had a stub toe, demons.
You got diphtheria, demons.
If you had diphtheria, it was demons. And that's not a joke. They did not believe in like medicine. It was if you broke your arm, like you sort of set it back in place and you just sort of dealt with it while Jesus healed you. Demons. And it was the demons that were in you that caused you to fall and hurt yourself in the first place. If you got the flu, it was demons. And so they would pray for you, but they really wouldn't do anything medically for you, which is not great when you've got a bunch of drug addicts.
No,
that are,
it's not. But for me, fucking hilarious.
When you've got a bunch of drug addicts that are, detoxing off of whatever substance happens to be a problem.
They were detoxing off of demons.
Yeah, apparently. But anyway, there are a lot of survivors that have told their stories over the years about this particular cult. And the article that I'm basing this information off of got into several of their stories, and I just wanted to tell you about some of the things that they talked about, how they got in and got out and all of that stuff. So the first one is there's a lady named Ellie Salerno, and so she was 12 years old, And she was just like a normal kid. She doesn't remember being like super problematic. She wasn't drinking. She wasn't smoking. She was just like an annoying 12-year-old, you know?
Huh.
And apparently her mom one day told her, "Oh, we're going to go on a trip." And so they were living in Florida at the time, and they took this trip. And eventually her mom ends up taking her. She said she remembers driving down this old dirt road. And eventually she starts asking her mom, where are we? What are we doing? What's going on? And anyway, she ends up driving her all the way to this commune. And when they finally get there, she's met by 3 men who grab the girl out of the car.
Jesus
and her
fucking
mom's
Christ.
just like, "Yeah, you live here now. Okay, bye."
Oh my God. Can I
Yeah,
please, real
a
quick?
12-year-old.
Real quick. This is literally what happened to Adam Eget.
Yeah.
Like, he said that his parents told him, "We're going to look at this camp." They drove him there. They got there, and I think they took a tour, and then they go, "Okay, bye." And they were like, "What?" He was like, "What?" They said, "Yeah, you're staying here." And then they fucking left him.
Yeah.
That's literally the same thing that happened.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So she apparently, the mom, like I said, just drove off, left her 12-year-old daughter there. And she said she was absolutely bawling and just absolutely distraught because, of course, she's fucking 12 years old and her mom just left her in the middle of bum fucking Mississippi.
Yeah, with 3 guys.
With 3 people that she has no idea. And anyway, it's very traumatic, obviously. And so they end up asking her to change clothes because the girls weren't allowed to wear pants. It was a very strict modesty policy. All of the girls had to wear skirts below their knees. You couldn't show any skin of any sort. And they burned all of the clothes that she came with, and they cut her hair off. And she ended up
Jesus Christ.
spending the next 4 years of her life stuck in that cult at that farm. 4 years.
4 years?
And so apparently, according to her, the commune had a schedule. So everybody was woken up at 6 a.m. in the morning. They had breakfast at, quote, the Golden Tabernacle, which was just like a lunch hall. And they had breakfast that they said was usually some kind of wheat cereal, maybe biscuits, maybe once a month. If everybody was doing good, they got an egg, but that's about it. And then they started doing chores. Some people were doing like back-breaking field labor. Some people were caring for animals. Sometimes when they were having like a big meal or something like that, it would be on some of the kids that were living there to butcher the meat. So they were like killing and cleaning chickens and stuff like that. And she remembers that being particularly a task that she was very averse to because obviously. And then, everybody ate dinner again. So 2 meals a day. They ate dinner at night in the Golden Tabernacle while the preachers were preaching at them. And apparently they had lots of Bible studies, and they regularly were given like sort of books of the cult leader, Sam Fife, the main guy, of his teachings. And sometimes he would come in and do preaching services and all of that stuff. Yep. And she said it was basically like a very excited evangelical kind of like over the top kind of service. It was being slain in the spirit and speaking in tongues and preachers screaming and jumping pews. And it was that kind of like firebrand preaching, not like sitting back and being a Baptist, which is very odd because, like I said, all of the preachers that I've ever had graduated from that same place, and they could put anybody to sleep pretty quick. Like, yeah. I don't...
Not only that, but they were also... Not they. I was at 1 or 2 services of one of them, and he was, fire and brimstone kind of guy, but not animated with it. He was very boring, but he was like... he was a little extreme.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you're going to hell, but you might take a nap before you get there.
You're going to hell, but come to the potluck first.
Exactly.
Like, everybody who's not me is a heathen and they're going to hell, but I would still like to have some soup if you got some.
Yeah. So like I said, I don't know where they got that sort of brand of extreme, excitement, but that is definitely not what I experienced from any pastor that graduated from that same place. But all right, fine. But anyway, so apparently she said that later in the interview, her mom basically had attended a move service in Florida, and then she apparently got the idea that she had just remarried, and the stepfather didn't want to have to deal with a kid, so her mom was like, let's just ship her off to this place.
Yeah. That sounds
Why
great.
not? Like, I don't have to worry about my 12-year-old girl anymore.
Yeah, sounds great.
What the fuck?
What
Anyway.
a great idea.
And so she said that she lived in a trailer that had 5 bunk beds on each side of the trailer. And she said her roommates were people that were severely mentally ill, people that were heroin addicts.
They were like adults?
Yeah.
And she was 12?
Yeah. I mean, there were
Okay.
other kids, but I mean, they were housing everybody together.
Okay. I don't like this at all.
Yeah, and she said that a lot of them, and they specifically took a lot of very seriously mentally unwell people, like people that legitimately had borderline personality disorder, and people that had untreated bipolar disorder, and untreated schizophrenic people, and all sorts of like just
Etc.
traumatized people. And so to help these traumatized people, they would take them to what they called the gatehouse. And the gatehouse is where they conducted all of their deliverances, which is just, a fancy way of saying, evangelical exorcism.
Yeah.
And so they would, quote, be delivered several times. And anybody that was undergoing one of their exorcisms had to be kept under supervision at the gatehouse basically at all times. So they had no privacy. They were just, until the demons went away, you had to be observed the whole time. And to be delivered, basically, you were usually tied down to your bed, and they were restrained, hands and feet. And the exorcism included the elders of the church praying over them, putting hands on them, putting your hands on their head to cast out demons. They sang songs. They read the Bible. And if it didn't work out that great, they'd start hitting on them and beating on them and that kind of stuff, because you got to whip the devils out of them.
I agree. I agree.
And this
agree.
lady said that she did, in fact.
Actually, what I'm thinking is beat the devil out of it.
Yeah, that's a paintbrush, not a person.
Yeah, never mind.
No, not the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she said that she actually saw a few exorcisms while she was on the farm, and she said that it was terrifying because a lot of these people were either mentally ill or mentally handicapped, and like they were being beaten and didn't know what was going on, and like it was just a horrific nightmare experience. And she said that the voices that were coming out of them really made her think that there were demons or something, because she didn't know what was going on.
No, they were just in a tremendous amount of pain.
Yeah, they were just like really upset. And she said it was just super scary, and like she was at the age that she thought, the head was going to spin around and they were going to crawl on the ceiling. Like it was very, atmospherically terrifying for the people that were in the room. Yep. But it was really just people abusing folks. And part of that, the reason that it got so bad on something like that was that part of Sam Fife's teachings was that you should regularly beat your children. And I do mean that he means that you should beat your children.
Yeah, not spank.
Not spank, beat them.
Yeah.
Because he believed that children were born with a beast nature, and to fix it, you had to beat the beast out of them. Preferably, you would get all of the beast out of them before they turned 3 and could start remembering it. In one sermon, he said, he went into detail about belting one of his daughters, and he said that, I'm not upset when I do it. I specifically, I'm gonna beat them. I'm gonna beat the devil out of them, basically. And
I'm not upset. This is just routine.
Yeah,
for us.
I'm not upset. This isn't out of anger. I'm doing it because this is what the Bible told me to do, or whatever. And he said that, she would always end up with welts on her back, but he said that he would rather have welts on her back, at the end of this than have scars on her soul through eternity. And I'm just sitting here going, you're beating babies.
Yeah. Well,
excuse you. And he also said, like, to beat, like, infants. Like, even if if a baby started crying even after it had been changed and fed, you should beat the babies. Not everybody apparently participated in the baby beating, because I guess some people still had a little bit of morals to them. But it wasn't uncommon to beat infants, because you had to beat the sin out of them, basically, as an infant. I'm heated about it. It makes me mad.
Well, I took a sexuality class in college, early college, and it was about, just anything that could come up in that regard. And I very specifically remember one of the topics being that there are certain people that when a baby makes a mess in their diaper, they get punished by those parents, and those children grow up with all sorts of sexual problems within their lives, because it's not a sexual thing, but it's associated with that area, of course. So the baby makes has a baby problem, and the parent gets upset and hurts the child, and that child grows up with trauma for the rest of its fucking life.
Yeah.
And you're talking about it's a religious thing, Anyway, I remembered that, and I wanted to speak on it.
But so there was one woman there that she got into the cult because she was basically born into it, I believe. Like, her grandparents were some of the elder ministers of the group, and she ended up going to this farm for a while. And so she started attending these meetings, about the time she was 12 or so. And she, was attending there at the church at Safa, because her mom had joined, and they were doing, all of the things and whatever. So she remembers that, she was originally attending one of the churches in Ohio, and eventually her mom decided that, she was just a problem child and needed to be sent down to the deliverance camp.
Right.
So she gets sent down to Safa, Mississippi, and she ends up, doing the whole thing, and she ends up being the target of an exorcism, and the demons wouldn't leave her because she didn't have demons, and they start beating the demons out with a paddle, and she said she was left with severe blood blisters all over her thighs from the beatings that she got, and she said that they couldn't get them to stop because they kept continuing these beatings and exorcisms.
She had too many demons.
Yeah. And so she finally decided that she was going to run away. But her mom found out about it. And anyway, I got mixed up. All of that stuff, all of the beatings were happening in her hometown in Ohio at that home church. Mm-hmm. But she decided to run away from them. She decided to run away from her home and her mother and all of that stuff. I'm getting two girls mixed up. But anyway, she moved she was attempting to run away from her home in Ohio, but her mom caught her going out the window. And so she took her to the nearest airport and had her flown down to Mississippi. And that's when she ended up going to that camp in Safa. And they did the same thing to her. They start having her exorcised and delivered and beaten and all of that stuff. But she attempted to run away from that place as well, but they have night watchmen who patrolled the farm, and they had guards that stood outside all of the trailers every night to attempt to keep people from fleeing. And they even had the local police in their pocket, and anytime they found someone fleeing from the campus, they brought them right back. Because, according to the locals, it was, they were doing a community service by helping these people by
beating them.
taking the societal outcasts so they didn't have to deal with them. Yeah. So, of course, people were pretty chill with them locally. And
beating those people.
Yeah, and it was basically just no escape. And at that point, she ends up just like submitting and being like just a nice girl and trying to get by without getting beat anymore. And so it comes up, she's been there about 4 years. She's about to be 18. And the head of the John and Bambi, the people that run the place, come to her and they said that a man on the farm had received a message from God that he was supposed to marry her. And so she was only 17. This guy was only a few years older than her. So at least it wasn't like a super old dude. But he was, probably 21 or so.
Okay, but that's not terrible, but still being told, hey,
you don't get a choice in this. I'm going to marry you.
God told me that I don't care what you say. God told me that I'm about to get up in there.
Yeah. So she was a little bit weirded out about it, but she's like, okay, whatever. Yeah. And
like she had an option.
Well, she just kind of saw it as a way to get out of the Mississippi area. So she married her husband on Christmas Day of 1975 on one of the Canadian communes where her parents were living. And she said she cried for the next 3 days and was just like absolutely not okay. But she ended up really falling in love with the guy that she married, and together after they had their first child, they both realized, oh shit, we're in a cult, and they left together. So at least that's one good thing that happened from it.
Yeah, that's something.
Like at least she found a dude that was, okay, I guess. A little sketch to begin with, but like okay. But anyway, so yeah, eventually that Sam Fife guy, he sort of hyped himself up so much in that time period that he had begun to preach that he was basically immortal and that he would live forever and never die because he was so holy and in the Word of God. But turns out he was pretty wrong about that because he and a few other church members were flying in a plane in 1979 in Guatemala, and they crashed into the side of a mountain, and they died pretty hard. Yeah, they all died. So Jesus. After that happened, other people, there was sort of like a schism in the church a little bit, and there was people trying to get power here and there, and I think the Henson people attempted to seize power as well. But like it started becoming like a church-wide belief, and that's something that they still preach today, that he had obtained a level of spiritual perfection that was so close to Jesus that God had to call him home. Like he had done everything on this earth that he could possibly can to perfect his spirit, that he had to die. So that just puts me in the mindset of, I don't want to die right now. Maybe I should sin a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, let's extend that time.
Yeah, like if we're done here, I'm gonna do everything that I've wanted to for this whole time.
Exactly. So, Shot in the Dark.
Oh, it's time. Okay, I was gonna say it's been a while here, Leah. We're going a little long, but it's okay.
Sorry. Told you it was a long story, but Shot in the Dark. John Henson, the leader of the St. Paul location, was sentenced to 10 years in prison. What was he convicted of?
Yay.
Was it A, tax fraud, B, child abuse, or C, kidnapping?
Child abuse.
Child abuse. Child abuse.
Fucking just because it's the thing, I'm gonna say tax fraud.
And you are incorrect.
Son of a bitch! I really don't want to take this shot.
He was sentenced to 10 years in prison after being found guilty of kidnapping a woman.
I was hoping it was child abuse.
No, it was kidnapping a woman named Charlene Hill, and he held her captive against her will at the commune. Go figure.
Weird.
Yeah, and apparently. They were doing lots of exorcisms on her, etc.
It's always so weird to me when all these fundamentalist religious cults want to be communist at the same time. Like, it's so fucking weird, is it not?
Not necessarily, because it's more of like a homesteading kind of building your compound survivalist. They don't see it as
right. They don't
commune.
identify as communists.
They don't identify as a commune in general, because specifically that
Right.
Henson guy, I read in this article about how he was very touchy about the word commune, and it wasn't a commune that they were building. It was, a religious center, and he was very against the word
But it was
commune.
self-sustaining, and everybody
but it was a
contributed to the same
self-sustaining
thing.
farm where everybody had division of labor and they lived together,
Okay.
etc. Yeah, it was
Okay.
legitimately a commune, but he, you can think your way around just about anything if you're that hard into something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's mental gymnastics,
Yeah.
which is what...
But anyway, he was
Anyway.
convicted of that and sentenced to
Can I real quick just...
Go ahead.
I just wanted to do that because I might throw up after the shot.
He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but he only spent a year in prison because the Mississippi Supreme Court overturned his conviction on the grounds of lack of evidence. So that sucks.
That wasn't about the story. That was about me struggling. Whoo!
Yeah. And anyway, so eventually after all of that shit happened and all of the legal stuff came down on them in Mississippi, they decided to pack up camp, and they ended up sort of splitting the commune. Half of them went to the commune that was in Georgia, and half of them went back up to Alaska. So
what was the lack of evidence? Like, he obviously kidnapped the girl and made her live on the commune.
I guess it was like she was so fucked up on whatever it was that she had been fucked up to be sent there in the first place that
He said she agreed
said
to
that
it, right?
she wanted to be, beaten and have the demons cast out of her. And she said,
God,
no, I legitimately didn't.
Some of us want to be beaten, Leah. You can beat the devil out of me anytime.
All right.
Just in certain fleshy areas. Like, if you do anything on, like, say, my shoulder blades, we're going to have a problem. There's no devil in my shoulder blades.
And like I said, there was another part of it that I thought was incredibly disturbing about the cult was that the mental patients, like the people that had mental health problems, that they fucked up even worse, and because they were torturing them, the ones that they couldn't get to act right, they ended up like driving into Atlanta and taking them to a legit mental facility and just offloading them there. Anybody that was broken beyond like actually, like if you had worn someone down mentally to the point where they were no longer functional and they were like insane at that point, they just decided, oh, this isn't our problem anymore, and they dumped them off at like a psychiatric facility in Atlanta, just to sort of get rid of the evidence of all of the shit that they had been doing to these people. And it just what anyway,
I don't know. Why are you
freaked
asking
me out a little bit, but anyway, so yeah, at the height of this particular commune, it had over 300 members, and it was situated on 90 acres of land, but it is no longer there. There are a couple of outbuildings and stuff left, but for the most part, it's all just concrete slabs in Mississippi field, so that's great. But like I said, the Move church religious organization is still a thing, so I mean, maybe avoid that. I don't know. I can't tell you what to do, but like, there you go.
So are they still treating people, quote unquote?
According to them, they are not, but...
But they're just a religious sect at this point.
At this point, they're just an
According to them, right.
ultra-conservative, apocalyptic sect, yeah. They still believe that the end's coming real soon, and,
Since 1970.
Yeah.
Real soon.
Real soon. They're very...
Well, relatively speaking, it could be real soon.
Sure. But I mean, they've kind of got like that same, like the Jehovah's Witnesses are also considered an apocalyptic organization because they've got that very, it's coming any day now kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they've got that very similar, like, apocalyptic kind of viewpoint. And I mean, there's several Wikipedia articles on them, and they've got their own website and shit if you're interested. I'm not, but you know, whatever. So that particular article was taken from a local Mississippi news station. So it's www.wlbt.com. And I highly recommend reading that entire article because some of these firsthand accounts from these women is very interesting. Yep. And then also in 2019, one of the survivors of this place called in to Coast to Coast with Art Bell. Do you remember that? Yeah. So she called in and actually did, and all of those radio shows are archived on their podcast. So if you are interested in that, you can Google it and find that episode number and listen to it. I listened to a few clips of it. It's incredibly interesting to hear someone tell their story about getting out of that kind of situation. So that's available as a resource too if you're interested in the story. So there you go. That was the story of the Sapod Deliverance Barn or whatever.
I'm always very interested when people speak about how they left things. Very recently, there are quite a few QAnon people who came out and are like, this is what happened and this is how I got in and out.
Yeah.
And what happened to me. Just for another reference, one of the granddaughters of Fred Phelps from the Westminster Baptist Church, like his daughter took over and is now the face of the church and has been for forever. So one of her daughters left and did a TED Talk about it.
That is such a good talk. If
it
you
is.
Haven't
it's like
seen
30 minutes long.
I was going to say it's long, but she's also done other like speeches and stuff about it. Like Google her and it's really good. So interesting.
It's very good.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 would recommend
talks about that. And what's so interesting about that is that you can, she doesn't hide anything of that sort of thing. She used to appear with her mother and one of her sisters on the Howard Stern show all the time because they would do this thing called Holly Weird Squares where they would have some of the worst people in the world were basically their Hollywood squares. Like they had a Ku Klux Klan member, they had the Westminster Baptist Church people. And it's awful to see it now, but it's so interesting that all of these people were like grouped together at once. And this girl was one of those people. And then 15 years later, she's giving a TED Talk about how awful she was right then.
Yeah.
At that time. And not, was it...
I was going to say,
I don't want to say it wasn't her fault, but, she was thrust into that.
I was going to say, if you're born in something like that, that's just not something that you can escape. I mean, and she did eventually with the help of others, and she realized the error of her ways, and, she's gone a long way to, healing those wounds and building bridges back with communities that she severed, because of her family. But, it's a fascinating story, and I would highly recommend, just looking that up and watching it, because...
I love... cult people who actively leave. Now, the Adam Egget thing that we were talking about, he was never a willing participant, nor did he necessarily willingly leave.
Yeah.
He was thrust out of it just as he was thrust into it. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
I still enjoy hearing that, but just cults in general fascinate me.
Yeah.
Because...
then you need to get on some of the cult TikToks because that shit's very interesting.
I don't want to do that. But it's just the susceptibility of the human mind has always really intrigued me. And especially in the last, 4 years where people are like, there's an insider and he loves pins. And it's like, well, it's just the 4chan guy. And you're like, no, it's not. It's like, no, it's just the 4chan guy who's a moron and is making shit up to make you look bad. But anyway,
are you ready for the toasty toast? It is not good.
Well... at this point, what can we expect?
All right, everybody hoist your 32 ounces of water high into the sky. We're going to toast. A glowing light above a Georgia swamp, it's worth the drive for a nice private romp.
Oh.
A cult in Mississippi, who would have guessed it? With all of that abuse, most grew to detest it. Drink!
What was wrong with that one? What didn't you like about it?
I just thought it was really wordy and kind of meh.
No, it was fun. It flowed well. It rhymed. You didn't force anything.
Thank you.
It was good. It was good this time. It wasn't forced. And Steve stayed the whole time.
Because he's a good boy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, are you ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, I guess so. Are you ready to wrap it up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Follow us on all of your social media platforms. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/Southern Spirits Podcast. Brand new August episode about mass hysteria.
Woo,
Up right now.
hysterical.
It's not hysterical.
I mean, it's fine.
It's literally hysterical in a mass sense.
Yes.
What else?
Merch.
Merch, yeah, that's right. The merch link will be in the episode description if anybody wants anything. Also, watch the episode on YouTube. Steve was great this week. He was the star of the show, without
Always
a doubt.
is.
And Leah won't stop at this point playing with him. Send us a postcard. Anything else interesting to P.O. Box 1743, Hartselle, Alabama 35640. Anything else, Leah?
That's everybody.
Okay. Well, thank y'all so much, and we will see you next time.
Bye, y'all.